Now, the belief in soul is not emphasized in Buddhism. How can rebirth take place without a soul? We can talk, there is no problem. Because people have been discussing this, especially one particular subject, soul, for the last few thousand years. They will continue this for another few thousand years, but never come to any final conclusion or final solution, either to accept or to reject. This is the nature of religious concept or belief, because no one can prove and no one can reject. So everything depends on how we accept. In reality, nobody knows whether these things really exist or not. We give our reasons, we try to justify, or we try to reject by thinking, analyzing, according to our way of thinking. But there are many others who can think further, which we cannot do. And they give some other information or interpretation according to their way of thinking. I think you have heard, I have told you on many occasions, the Buddha has not preached anything according to the existing theories or philosophies or beliefs. He has rejected. He said, I have no theories or belief. I am telling you according to my experience and my understanding. So Buddhism stands alone when all the other existing religions join together regarding many religious issues. That means the most important ingredients. Without those ingredients, it is very difficult for people to maintain religious belief. Even after rejecting many of those existing beliefs, the Buddha stood firmly and he tried to justify that in his interpretation that he gives chance for people to think without depending on existing belief and theories. That is what the Buddha has done. The other religious teachers have never done this. Their way of teaching is to accept the existing belief at that time where that particular religion was originated. The Buddha started his religion by rejecting many of those existing religious beliefs. Now let us take few examples, then you can see the difference. All the other religions, of course there are few cult and creed, small denominations also belong to the same categories. Every religion accepts that there is a supreme God, creator God, who creates everything. The Buddha rejected this. Every religion accepts that there is an eternal soul or spirit. The Buddha rejected this. Every religion accepts there are some ready-made heaven and hell, or created by someone for people either to suffer or enjoy their life forever. The Buddha rejected this. Every religion believes that God can forgive the sins committed by us. The Buddha rejected this. Here you can see the difference. All the other existing religions can join together and come and challenge, but Buddhism stands alone. But remember, there are many scientists, philosophers, psychologists, rationalists, freethinkers who are ready to support the ideas or the interpretation given by the Buddha. They are not belong to any particular religion because they can think freely without depending on existing belief. Others cannot think freely because they are bound to accept the existing belief. Now this is a very controversial subject. During the Buddha's time, there were so many dialogues, debates, discussion. Of course, there was no controversy about rebirth. Every existing religion at that time in India accepted that it is true. Therefore, there was no debate or dialogue about rebirth. There was one particular philosophy, not a religion. That philosophy was known as Charvaka philosophy. Only that particular religious group, you can regard them as religious group, they are materialists. That means they have no God, no creation, no soul, no rebirth. This is the only life, and they have their own philosophy. In Sanskrit, they use the Sanskrit language to interpret it. Yavat jivet sukhang jivet, rinang kritva ritang pibet, bhasmi bhutasya dehasya punaragamanam kruta. Now their philosophy is this. Yavat jivet sukhang jivet. Enjoy our life as long as we live. Rinang kritva ritang pibet. If you haven't got enough money to enjoy, go and borrow from outside and enjoy. Why? Bhasmi bhutasya dehasya. After our death, the body will be cremated or buried. Punaragamanam kruta. Who says that departed person will come back again? This is their philosophy. I think the majority here in this world still follow this philosophy. That is why, although they have their own religious labels to claim that they belong to this religion or that religion, but in their heart they do not accept what their religion talk about. They maintain this belief in their mind. I have met thousands of Buddhists who maintain the same belief, and Hindus and Christians also, because they are religious labels to them. They do not believe all these things. They say we haven't got evidence to prove. And what about others, those who have no religion, so-called communist, socialist, rationalist, freethinkers, and many others. That is why we had to face enormous worldly problem, and the whole world is in a chaotic condition because of this belief. They do not believe that there will be bad effect, or they had to pay the consequences for all the evil that they commit. Not so easy to wipe out this feeling. I think in time to come, people use only religious labels, but they develop this philosophy in their heart. Then I had to explain two things very clearly. The definitions of soul and the significance of rebirth. These two things. The question is, if belief in soul is not emphasized in Buddhism, how can rebirth take place without a soul? Although the other religions do not encourage or emphasize or interpret or do not use the word rebirth, they too believe that there will be something hereafter. Besides this Charvaka philosophy, all the others, let us take Christians, Muslims and all Jews and Zoroastrianism, all these religions, every religion says there will be something hereafter. To them, either heaven or hell. That is rebirth, although they don't use the word. Then there are few more religions, like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and some others, who maintain that a rebirth or existence can take place again and again. Then they give reason, how long and why and how. These are the important things. Now when you study Sikh religion, Punjabis, although originated from Hinduism, they have their entirely different interpretations and philosophy. They say rebirth can take place only, some say 80 times, some say more than that. Only 80 times, cannot go beyond that. When you study Greek philosophy, Plato, he strongly believes rebirth. To him, rebirth can take place only 7 times, cannot go beyond that. Then Hinduism used the word transmigration or reincarnation. Reincarnation or transmigration. Why do they use this term? Because they believe the soul, Atma, Atta in the Pali, Atma in Sanskrit. Atta or Atma. Originally created by Mahabrahma. Mahabrahma means creator of the whole universe. Because this concept of creator God was originated from there. Brahma is the creator. They have 3 important gods. Trimurti. Brahma, Vishnu, Ishvara. 3 gods. Brahma creates the whole world or the whole universe. After that, another powerful god known as Vishnu look after the creation. Then after some time, when everything goes wrong, there's another god watching. That is very powerful god called Ishvara, Shiva or Ishvara. When he could not tolerate our nuisance, our way of life, the more and more corruptions and evils and immorals and wicked and cruel and dangerous activities, what he does, he completely burns the whole world. Destroyer. Creator, protector and destroyer. So they have 3 gods. So they worship, pray to all these 3 important gods. Again, Hinduism says, this you can find in well-known Hindu philosophy, a book, Bhagavad Gita. It's a very interesting book, just like Dhammapada. Paritrānāya sadhūnāṃ vināsāya ca duskritāṃ dharma samsthāpanārthāya sambhavāmi yuge yuge. This is also in Sanskrit. Paritrānāya, God says, Paritrānāya sadhūnāṃ, to protect sadhu. Sadhu means cultured, religious. To protect cultured and good people. Vināsāya ca duskritāṃ, to destroy the wicked people. Dharma samsthāpanārthāya, for the establishment of the dharma, truth or righteous way of life. Sambhavami, appear. Yuge yuge, from time to time, God says. That is why they use the word reincarnations of God. So according to them, so far, 9 reincarnations have taken place. So the Buddha was the 9th one. And there will be another one. Before the end of this world, there will be another one. The God appeared again by taking different forms, incarnation. The Buddha did not accept this belief, although they have accommodated Buddha into their group and given him credit as incarnations of their God. Earlier, the Buddha has rejected this. There were few occasions the Buddha has revealed this. He said, I am not a son of a God, messenger of a God, representative of God, reincarnations of God. There were many occasions where he mentioned this, because he did not want to get that credit, divine credit. He said, by using my effort, my knowledge, my understanding, by sacrificing everything, by cultivating all the great virtues, good qualities, knowledge and wisdom, I gain this enlightenment. Later, Hindus have given this credit and accommodated him as one of their incarnations. That is why every Hindu pay respect, worship the Buddha. So there is no conflict between Hindus and Buddhists. Buddhists also visit Hindu temple. Hindus also visit Buddhist temple. They worship together. No difference, although they have different concepts. So unity, this unity they have maintained for more than 2000 years. Then reincarnations and transmigrations are not suitable words for us to use, since we don't accommodate this word soul. To the Buddha, there is no eternal or temporary soul created by God. Then what is the definition of soul? Then the Buddha says, he defined the whole body, elements, mental faculties, and exposed, analyzed, and asked people to find out where the soul is. Is there any place for this so-called soul when we analyze the mind and the body or the element? No one can find out. 5 senses, 4 mental faculties, 4 elements, and the whole physical body. When you analyze, we can experience, we can understand the existence of all the other things, mental faculties and energies and elements, but no one can find out where the soul is. and what it is. So this clearly shows this is a belief that people maintain due to lack of understanding of the analytical knowledge of the human mind. Because there is no another religion where you can find the real definitions of the human mind. They always talk about God, soul, heaven, and hell, or spirit also, or angels, what else? These are the most important words that they use to introduce or interpret their religion. The Buddha did not take any of these things to introduce Buddhism, but he analyzed the mind. I think you can remember a modern psychologist, a well-known psychologist, Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, and another psychologist announced, actually we are trying to recover what the ancient philosophy and ancient psychology introduced few thousand years ago. But still we could not understand. We are in infancy stage. Although we say we have discovered psychology, still they have not realized mental impulses. They have knowledge, they have no knowledge. But later, one psychologist known as William James, he pointed out that there is something that is called mental beats. How ideas appear in the mind through the influence of various other mental faculties. Psychologists cannot explain this. I think I have told you, when we are going to analyze karma, kusala karma or akusala karma, good karma or bad karma, at what stage and at what mental impulses or beats that the human mind can create either good karma or bad karma. I explained 2-3 times. Because in every thought or ideas that we create in our mind, we do not create either good karmas or bad karmas. Most of our thoughts are free from either good karma or bad karma. All the definitions the Buddha has given by analyzing the mental activities, the function of the mind. So it is due to lack of this knowledge, people have accepted this belief that there is something which is called soul, Atma, or spirit, which function in our body. But when we analyze the nature of the mind, we cannot find out where it is and what it is. Not only that, they say, we experience pleasant and unpleasant feeling because of our soul. Pain and pleasure we experience because of our soul. At the same time, they also say, only human beings have this soul, but not animals. That is why they can slaughter animals. Animals have no soul to them. But do you think animals never experience pain and pleasure, pleasant and unpleasant? If there is no soul in them, how do they experience pain and pleasure? Not only that, they also say, all of us here in this world are suffering today due to original sin. We believe it. Then what about those animals? Do they talk about original sins that animals have committed? They too suffer from sicknesses, old age, sufferings, and death. Furthermore, let us take plant life. Do you think this plant life also created original sin at the beginning? And we can see very clearly how plant life also suffers. Sicknesses, old age, death. People never use common sense. Throw away all these religious labels. You can throw away Buddhism also. Use your human mind. Then you can understand the truth. All these problems, sufferings, sicknesses, old age, friction, calamities, disappointments, happiness, unhappiness are created by certain conditions, certain factors, certain environmental factors. When these things appear, then we can see these phenomena, these changes. There is no God or devil behind all these things. So these are natural occurrences. Each and every living thing, that including plant life, are subject to this universal law of impermanence, changes, and decay. It is not due to sin. It is natural. But we experience the consequences of good and bad effect according to certain deeds that we have done. Certain things are good, certain things are bad. In our day-to-day life, there is no original sin behind this. We are committing sins every minute in that respect. Every day we are committing sin and we experience the bad effect. Every day we are also accumulating good merits and we too experience the good result. That is how this life continues. Continuity or the life process continue because of this mental energy. All these things are mental energies. So the interpretations of this soul created by God is entirely a foreign religious issue to Buddhism. That means there is no place for that in Buddhism. So to have rebirth, there is no place or there is no role to play for this rebirth. So now you can understand from the Buddhist point of view, the belief in soul is only imaginations or misinterpretations or misunderstanding that people have created due to lack of understanding of the definitions of the mind. Now let us take another angle. Whether it is soul or mental energy or consciousness, whatever it may be. So everybody believes that there is something. After our death, there must be something for us to appear again, either in heaven or hell or come back to human world or animal life. There must be something. And for that something, we use different names. Now one group says it is soul, another group says consciousness or karma, another group says pure mental energy. So that means there is something. For that something, we give different names. So there is no reason for us to argue. Let us take something, then no controversy. There is something. Without using either soul or spirit or consciousness, this or that, they say there is something. Because we cannot see that something. Then we can avoid unnecessary argument. Alright, then how rebirth can take place? As Buddhists and Hindus, traditionally belief that there will be another life after our death. But we do not know how it takes place. There are different interpretations. Some people believe after our death, our departed spirit or soul or consciousness remain for a certain period, say 49 days or 7 days, in different countries, different period. After that, settle down. Then rebirth take place either as human beings or in heaven or hell or somewhere else. And this was the common belief that many people maintained even before the Buddha's time. And the Buddha rejected this belief. He says there is no interval or intermediate states for us to remain after our death. Now if we can understand the nature of death, we have no ground to maintain that belief. The other day I have explained, before our death, 3 signals appear in our mind. Kamma, Kamma Nimitta and Gati Nimitta. That means all the good and bad activities that we have done during our lifetime start to function, projects from the subconscious mind. Then, just now I mentioned about mental beats or mental impulses. At that time, our normal mental beat reduced. Now, it works 7 times. This way again 7 times. 7 times, working like this. Then we create craving, anger, jealousy, grudge, enmity and all the evil forces according to the mental faculties which appear during these mental beats. Again, kindness or compassion or honesty or sincerity or good thoughts also we maintain according to the mental faculties. At the dying moment, only 5 mental beats, because mental faculties are weakened. Therefore, at that time, we experience the difficulties of recalling what we have done, and we cannot grasp anything from outside at that time. We cannot hear, we cannot see, we cannot smell, and no feeling, cut off. Then the subconscious mind start to project all the depository, good and bad karmic seed, thoughts. Then the dying man go through all these thoughts which appear, good ones and bad ones. It depends how we have deposited, how we have influenced our mind to commit, to create either good things or bad things. For example, to do bad things, you have polluted your mind for a long period, developing your anger, jealousy, grudge and enmity and all the evil forces in your mind for a long time. And later, by using all our senses and creating bad thoughts, such thoughts are very deep rooted in the mind and influence very easily at the dying moment. Remember this. On the other hand, when you want to do some meritorious good deed, some service to others, then you are going on talking, discussing, planning how to do this with compassion, sympathy, understanding, and even without any ulterior motive in your mind. Then you reduce the evil forces in your mind and maintain some sort of purity, virtues in your mind. It that you have done may submerge. But these things can influence the mind very easily. So, at the dying moment, such karmic thoughts get the first chance to appear in the mind as last thoughts. Now that is called karma. After that, karma nimitta, indications of the effect of this particular karmic thought which appeared in the mind. What sort of result that we are going to experience? Either good result or bad result. Or what is the nature, in which way we are going to experience? That is called indications of the karma which appear in the mind, which can be conditions, good and bad effect. Immediately after that, the last one appears, that is called gati nimitta, destiny. Here already finalized. External or sources have nothing to do with this. Usually when people are going to die, others go and convert because we can send him to heaven very easily. But nobody knows what is happening in that dying man's mind. What to do? People believe this kind of thing. So, he prepared his own journey. And some others go and try to put him into their bag and sent out. It doesn't work. I am responsible for my journey, my destiny. What I have done during my lifetime, another person cannot change these things. The Buddha also cannot change this. This is the nature. Then appear the indication, the destiny, where he goes, whether will be born as human beings or devas or animals or brahmas or spirit or ghost or one of those 31 planes of existence. Immediately after that, all these things started to function in that dying man's consciousness. And that consciousness, in that consciousness there are so many ingredients behind. What are those things? Karmic energy, craving for existence, craving for pleasure, craving for enjoyment, attachment. All these things are the mental ingredients. And then that consciousness transmits. So when it is transmitted, another person cannot divert towards somewhere else, because this is my own energy. When I shot an arrow or bullets from here, halfway another person cannot direct towards somewhere else. It goes according to my aiming. So this departed consciousness, according to the ingredients in that consciousness, then absorb, settle down, with the cooperations of so many other existing external energies. Those external energies are known as cosmic energies. Their cooperation is important. Without their cooperation, it is impossible to condition another life. That is why in Paticcasamuppada, the Buddha says, the combinations of mind and matter is the nucleus, germ of another life. Combinations of mind and matter means that departed consciousness and external energies and elements and so many other factors. So there is no soul there. Then how rebirth take place? If there is no craving for existence, craving for pleasure, there won't be any more rebirth. That is why the Buddha says, after gaining his enlightenment, immediately he said, Tanhanang kaya majjaga. No more craving in my mind anymore. Nattidani punabhavo. Again, earlier he has said, no more rebirth for me, because no more craving to create another one. And this craving, we cannot stop by force. This is a gradual development in our mind through understanding, realization of the nature of existence. Otherwise you can say, I got fed up with this life, I don't want to live anymore, I don't like to have another rebirth. Utter nonsense. You cannot stop this. You got fed up with this life because of your craving. Remember that. You have more craving to say like this. You cannot tolerate that. That is called unsatisfied craving. When you could not entertain your craving, you said, I got fed up with this life. I don't want to have another rebirth. That means you have more craving. Remember this. If you don't like to have another rebirth, you cannot break everything at once. There are so many forces, energies, ingredients, factors to provide this. So you have to reduce one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. There are so many in the list. And then one day, when complete realization appears in your mind, automatically this rebirth stops. Otherwise, you cannot stop it although you don't like it. And this is the nature. So craving is the main cause. We have created good and bad karmas to support this craving, to maintain, to exist, to experience pleasure, to indulge our senses. Craving is behind. Those who say that they don't believe that there will be another life after our death, never think, never study, never analyze, simply say that we don't believe. It doesn't matter whether they believe or not, it takes automatically. As Buddhist, you believe that there will be another life. You cannot create another life although you believe. You cannot stop this rebirth if you don't believe it. So belief is not important. Birth, sicknesses, decay, old age, problems, death, all these things are natural occurrences. Belief are not important. In the same manner, rebirth also natural. It is a natural occurrence. You cannot stop it. Then why do you want to know about this? Now that is very important. By knowing that there will be another existence after your death, you get the chance to prepare, to mold your next life. Now we can see how people are suffering in this world, how animals and other living beings are suffering in this world. And nobody knows why they suffer. For nothing. So the original sin is not the answer. Having seen this situation, then you think very deeply. The more we exist, the more we have to suffer. In the end, what do we gain? Throughout our life, we are going on struggling for our survival, grumbling, accusing, cursing, fighting, quarreling, developing jealousy, anger, this and every day grumble and grumble and grumble. Occasionally you show your artificial smiling face, but in the heart there is no happiness. This is the nature of our existence. Are we not doing all these things for our living? Why do we want to fight? Why do we want to develop jealousy, harbor anger? Why do we want to go and steal and disturb others? For our living, for our pleasure. And the troubles and consequences, bad effects come to us, then we worry, we cry, we suffer. Again we continue. The more we accumulate all the bad ingredients in our consciousness, then we are going on molding another bad, another dangerous, another unfortunate, miserable life. That life can be human life or animal life or ghost or any other kind of living being. Then people ask this question: why do we worry about that? As long as we live, we enjoy our life by adopting any kind of wicked or crooked or cunning method. Then after our death, another person will suffer. Assume, after my death, due to my bad karmas, rebirth take place as an animal. And I think, why should I worry about it? Let that animal to suffer. This is a childish way of thinking. We never think that animal's life is conditioned, molded by me. I am responsible for that life. And there is continuity, unbroken continuity, mental relationship, consciousness. It is my departed consciousness with all the ingredients that I have accumulated, conditioned with the cooperations of so many other external things. That may take a different form, different shape. Two-legged can become four-legged. The continuity is there. By realizing this, that I am responsible to condition another miserable life, and that is not the end. Again, from there, I will continue. Then is there any meaning in this way of existence, life after life? This is the advantage of realization of this rebirth. Then we can mold our life by realizing, now if we behave like this, our next existence can become a miserable one. If I do like this, I disturb, I create lot of worries and sufferings and miseries to others. And they also suffer because of me. And after my death, or while I am living here also, again, I have to suffer. Those who think that there won't be another life after they are dead, never get the chance to think in this way. They say, why worry? Who knows? What evidence have you got? So these are not the reasonable arguments. So our human mind is rich enough to understand these things. Others cannot. That is why we regard many other living beings as unfortunate living beings. They cannot analyze, they cannot understand in this way. And they do not know how to mold their next life. Now take for instance, a man after committing or behaving like an animal. Because this question was discussed even during the Buddha's time. Because many people cannot understand how a man can become an animal after his death. They cannot understand. Because of the wrong wording. It is true that man cannot become an animal. What is man? Define the word man here. Man means we take this physical body. And this is called man. But by maintaining a human body, there's a saying, Manushya Rupena Mriga Charanti. In the form of humans, animals are moving. Understand? All these two-legged ones look like humans. They are not real humans. Manushya Rupen, Rupa, form, look like human, but Mriga Charanti, animals are moving. Because their minds work just like animals' mind. How? Animals needs only 4 things. Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maithuna. They cannot think beyond that. Food, sleep, self-protection, sex. Every living being experience these 4 things. Do you think the majority of our human beings also do not behave exactly like those animals? But there is difference. Animals try to find out their food by natural way. Animals try to find out a shelter. Sometimes they fight. Animals like to experience sex. Sometimes they also fight. And they also relax. The difference is, you cannot find cunningness in their mind. They do everything natural way. But human beings always adapt certain cunning method to experience these 4 things. Very few of them adapt a reasonable method, very decent method. And this is the only difference. So if we are also going to live just like those animals, experiencing only these 4 things as purpose of our life. So, Manushya Rupena Mriga Charanti. In the name of humans, animals are working, behaving, eating, sleeping, and talking. So that means they are molding their future life to be born as animals. Because they abuse, they insult, they stress their human intelligence. They have potentials in their mind, but they never think, never study, never behave. By giving due credit to human intelligence, that intelligence is there, but they don't want to cultivate. Even modern education cannot contribute anything to cultivate these good qualities and virtues in the human mind. Create more craving, more jealousy, competition. Religion is the only solution. Religion can provide enough materials to cultivate, to develop that human intelligence. But unfortunately, many religions try to abuse that intelligence also, without allowing man to think freely, without depending on their mythologies and theories and traditions. The Buddha wanted to break all these things, give full freedom for man to think. Of course, there are many who cannot think properly, and that is why they have to learn. Within their understanding capacity, they also can learn something. Then they can continue this life after life. Within one lifetime, we cannot understand everything. We cannot cultivate all the great virtues within one lifetime. Now you can understand why this knowledge is important and how rebirth takes place, and that there is no place for this so-called soul or the concept maintained by many other religions. But I told you that we should not argue regarding these words. So everybody believes that there is something. So we take this as our consciousness supported by our own good and bad karmas. We don't use that word. This is the only difference. But others say the soul is created by God, and after our death He will take it back. But the way how He treats this departed soul is very funny. You know, in certain countries they import monkeys for medical test. Then after cutting, poking, burning here and there, and when that body is useless, they throw into dustbin or burn after their experiment. The Buddha never said that human body is for experimental purpose. When it is unwanted, to do away with it, to damn into eternal hell. Given only one chance, one life, to be perfect. Many intelligent, intellectuals, philosophers, scientists say, why only one life? How can a man be perfect within one life? All his human weaknesses, mental impurities are very deeply rooted in his mind. He cannot wipe out all these things at once. At least give him another chance. But they say no, only once. That means we don't believe, obey the creator of your soul. You are unwanted. Experiment has become a failure. The Buddha says no. This is not the first and the last. You were there before you come to this world. You will be there again. But this is not a very pleasant situation, because you do not experience happiness, satisfaction, contentment during your existence. Therefore, be wise. There is a method for you to practice, to follow, if you want to get rid of this situation. If you cannot understand this, if you cannot practice this, it is up to you. There is nobody else to force you, drag you by force. It doesn't work. And this is the Buddha's way of teaching. Few minutes for question. Doctors may confirm the clinical death. Understand? There are two kinds of death: clinical death and natural death. The mental energies still remain there, but all the organs, heartbeats and everything completely stop. mind over matter. There are some yogis still exist in India who develop only that particular yoga practice. Through their jhana meditation, they get into trance, then ask people to bury them just like a dead body for 1 week. After 1 week, again when they exhale, dig out, start to breathe. During that time, when the body was there underground, they have invited heart specialists from America, Germany, England and various other countries to examine the heartbeat. They say no, completely stop, no heartbeats. Just like dead body, exactly dead body. But there is, the Buddha has given the definition, 3 things must be departed, otherwise death never takes place. Ayu, smacha, vijnana, these 3 things. All the other existing things may become out of order, but these 3 things are still functioning. First thing, ayu. People cannot understand what it is. When we talk about karma, we analyze into 11 groups. One particular karma is called janaka karma, generative or productive karma. That particular karma is responsible for that production. And the lifespan of that particular living being exists according to that particular karma. So as long as that karmic energy remains, no one can kill or no one can die. That is called karmic energy. Second one is usma, that means heat energy. Among the 4 elements, heat energy is the most important element to maintain the other elements also. So the heat, as long as heat energy functions in the body, death cannot take place. That is the second factor. Third one is more important. That is called consciousness. As long as the consciousness is still functioning, death cannot take place. When all these 3 things completely departed, then death takes place. There were many cases, not only 1 or 2 hours. One case after 48 hours, I heard, in Russia. After 48 hours, again got back the life. That means death has never taken place, but the physical body, all the organs complete stop functioning. So that is not a problem at all.
The question of we are able to kind of blend consciousness. Now, in the case, in order for a person to die, all those 3 factors must be there. Take the case of a person takes a robbery. A person takes a gun and shoots the person. Now, according to you, how is it the bullet when the bullet touches the brain? Somehow or other, that bullet must have hit the correct spot, where the mind is, where the body is, where everything is stabilized.
The bullets were deposited in the subconscious mind. At that time, shoot from there, then affect the consciousness. That's called karmic seeds. Karmic seeds are the bullets. If they are good ones, we have to use another name. If they are bad ones, bullets. Yes.
How does animal make karma bullet?
That is a good question. Yeah. Yes, that is a very big problem. Now, after committing certain bad evil, bad karma, molding animal life during our lifetime, rebirth takes place as an animal. Then the question is, what would be the destiny of that animal after death? And that is why I told you, we regard them as unfortunate living beings. They have no chance to accumulate fresh karma. But easily they can accumulate bad karma. Because for their survival, they have to kill others. And this is the danger of existence. Why? The Buddha says this samsara, the wheel of existence, is nothing but suffering. And because of this situation, the whole world, all these existing living beings on the land, in the water, exist because of this. One eat the other. One catch the other. And but always try to escape. The struggle for survival. That is the most miserable situation of existence. We try to escape from so many other animals, and many animals try to escape from us. In fact, we destroy many living beings thinking they are a real nuisance to us for our survival. Otherwise we don't kill them. It is a big battle for our survival. And we never think that human beings are the most dangerous living beings on this earth. Why? All the other living beings, including worms or insects, affect, attack or disturb only one particular group. They do not disturb others. But human beings destroy every living being on this earth and there. Now you can understand the most dangerous living being in this world is the human being. So, still I did not give the answer to the question. So what will happen? Although rebirth has taken place as an animal, in that animal's consciousness, that animal also got mind, but function only little bit. Others submerged them. In their mind also they have good and bad karmas which have accumulated earlier during the previous birth. Now after this animal's death, if this animal had not committed many bad karma, what will happen? Again this animal gets the chance to be born as a human being or any other living being to reduce that miserable life, because there are some good karmas in that animal's mind. You understand? So, that is not the end. But now let us take cow, horses, goats, elephants, and many living beings. They don't harm others. They eat only vegetables. Like tigers, lions, pythons, and they cannot survive without killing other living beings. So those animals have more chance, those who do not kill other living beings, have more chance to come back again if they had enough good karma that they have accumulated during their previous birth. Take for instance the Buddha. How many times rebirth has taken place as animals? Elephant, monkey, a snake, peacock, a squirrel, fish. There are many stories. He explains. Again he can come back because he had more than enough good karma. Due to certain mistake, rebirth has taken place as animals and again come back. Even in our case, there is no guarantee. Unless and until we attain the first stage of sainthood, Sotapanna, there is no guarantee that rebirth never takes place, animal kingdom, ghost or spirit or heaven. Because our mentality or the human mind are unreliable. Unreliable means changes can take place at any time. Influence of environment, temptation, anger, craving can change our mind. At that time, we do not know how we are going to behave. Unless one thing, that first stage of statehood is here. Now this is the uncertainty of existence of this samsara.